All right, students, Mr. Kutzi here. I want to just put together a quick review of what we were doing just before the Thanksgiving break with parabolas. If you recall, we had an activity that had the several different graphs, and we're using the graphing calculator to graph them. If you're at home, or if you had a computer, as you obviously are, you'd probably want to use Desmos. It's a little bit more easy to use than a graphing calculator. So you want to go to desmos.com up here, hit enter, and you're going to want to go ahead and launch the calculator. Once you do that, you will get a nice looking graph here, and over here is where you're going to enter equations. We're going to go with y equals x. Y equals x, obviously a straight line. But if we show keypad, we can go ahead and make that x squared, and now we have a parabola. I'll go ahead and hide the keypad because really, unless you're using x squared, all the rest of these numbers you could just use on your keyboard. So hide the keypad. One other feature I'm going to use here is graph settings. I'm going to put it on projector mode. And what you'll notice in the background there, it made the line a little bit darker. It's a nice little feature there. That'll work well for us. So what we're going to do with this then is we're going to make certain adjustments to this and see how it changes the shape of the graph. Okay, so let's go ahead and highlight that, and I'll copy that, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in again. Now we have two parabolas laying on top of each other. All right, and one of the main ideas here with the activity was to discover what different numbers do to the graph. So, for example, if x squared, that's really just 1x squared. So if you put a 2x squared here, you'll notice it gets skinnier. Put a 3x squared, and you get a skinnier graph still. If that's skinnier, then like 5 or 6x squared should be even skinnier. And you can keep on going. Keep on pasting these in here, and then go, let's go with 9x squared, even skinnier. So if a bigger number makes it skinnier, then a number less than 1 should make it wider. So let's go ahead and paste. So number less than 1, you can use a fraction, you can use a decimal, you could put 0.5, that's wider. 0.6 would be more, so that'd be skinnier. Let's go with something smaller than 0.5, let's go 0.2, and again it's wider still. So changing the numbers here will change the width of the graph. And so if you're going to do the extra credit, which is in the other video, it's all explained over there. You could take a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, for example, and then you could change the width of this parabola to perfectly match your picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. That's the idea. All right, so that's how you change the wideness or skinniness of this. Let's go ahead and get rid of all these. There's too many of them. Let's just click them out, click them out, click them out. All right, let's go back to the beginning. So x squared, that's our standard parabola. Now, if we put a negative in front of this, everything else was true that we already learned, but if you put a negative, it's now upside down. So, if we put a negative and make it a negative fraction like 1/2, that's going to be wider, but now it's downwards. If you put a negative smaller than 1/2, say negative 1/5, that's smaller, so it ends up wider. So fractions make it increase or decrease more slowly, so that's the effect of making it wider. Alright, so put a negative, turns it upside down, and then let's put a really small fraction like 1/10, even wider still. And you can drag this over so you can see that, see what's going on there. So that's the effect of the number in front. That's one key thing we want to be getting from this chapter. Alright. And another cool feature about Desmos, you can drag it all along here, a lot easier than the trace function on the calculator, which is still a good function. But you can click on any one of these real quickly and trace and find any key points. What you'll notice again, all of these go through right there. Whoops, right there, 0, 0. They all have a vertex of 0, 0. So that brings us to our next point. How do you shift the vertex? So let me clear all these out. We don't need them all. Let's start fresh. So the other thing we learned here is if you have a standard parabola and you want to shift it up, adding a number like 4, for example, shifts the same parabola up 4. All right, let's go back to our standard one. Let's open a new one, and again, let's put plus 3 this time. It shifts it up to 1, 2, 3. So this is very much like changing the y-intercept if we were talking about slope-intercept form. But of course, this is a parabola, so your standard vertex would be at 0, 0, but now you've shifted it up to 0, 3. Let's click on this. Let's go into minus 3, and as we'd expect, it shifts it down 3. Make another one, and let's go minus 7, and again, it shifts it down to negative 7. So this number at the end shifts it up or down, okay, and we can clearly see that based on the numbers here. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of those. And let's go ahead and do this. Start with the same parabola, but this time I'm going to put parentheses around the parabola. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'm going to copy this again so I can paste it down here. What we're going to do now is we're going to say, what happens if we put that number, instead of putting it at the end, what if we put it in the middle? So go minus 5, and take a look. Now here's the key thing you got to know. It shifted it by 5 units, but take a look. It shifted to positive 5, even though he had a minus 5. Now there's a good reason for that, and let me try and make sure that's clear. We went over it in class, but I really want to make sure it's clear, so that's why I'm including it here. 0, 0 was your vertex before, okay, and that made sense, because if you plug in 0 here, you'll get 0 for y. The whole equation will go to 0 equals 0. That makes sense. If you looked at this equation, if I said, what will make this part 0? It's a minus 5, so when x is positive 5, that's what makes y 0. That's the reason for this shift. So a minus, even though you're subtracting 5, you're subtracting 5 from all your x values. So now it's true when x is positive 5, that's now your vertex. Even though you're putting minus 5, your vertex is now at positive 5. Similarly, if we put plus 5, it shifts it over to negative 5. Again, the reason is it's a negative 5 that would make this whole equation 0. Okay? If that makes sense, then you're in great shape. If it's still not making sense, just remember, what is the number that would make this a 0? Okay? Because this is going to be key. Okay? So hopefully that helps. And you're going to want to try all this out on your own. Play around with Desmos for 5, 10 minutes, however long. And if it's still not making sense, feel free to come by at any time, and I'd love to help you out. All right, let's put all this stuff together now. Let's click these out. Let's put all that together. Let's start with this one. Let's put a number inside and a number outside. So let's say I want to shift it over 5. That would be actually a minus 5. So I shift it over 5. Now let's say I want to put it up 3. Now it's up 3. And let's say I said, oh, well, I want it to be upside down. So that's a negative. You say, you know what, that looks cool, but I'd like it to be wider. So you put a fraction, 1/2, and now it's wider. You say, no, still not wide enough? Okay, 1/6. Oh, not wide enough? 1/9. All right, and you can do whatevers. And again, with this, you can click on different points and drag it around. And these are really neat features of Desmos. So you're definitely going to want to take advantage of all these neat features that Desmos has anytime you're trying to check your homework for graphing. Okay. The whole goal here, though, of course, is to be able to know all these different numbers, how they affect the graph, and be able to do it without the calculator and without the computer. Okay, but Desmos is our tool, and hopefully it'll make it clear and help you out with that stuff. So now hopefully you know a little bit more about Desmos, and you know a lot more about parabolas. Hope this helps, and look forward to other videos, and we'll end it here. See y'all tomorrow in class.